Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming this evening. My name is Colin O'Reilly. I'm excited to welcome you to our book discussion this evening with Dr. Joanna Choi Kalbus, who will be talking about her memoir, The Boat Not Taken. This event is co-sponsored with the Menard Family Center for Economic Inquiry and the Asian World Center. Just a couple of announcements. There'll be a QR code at the very end of the event if you need to sign into the event. Also, please join us for our next event on April 17th, which will kick off our Humanomics Symposium. That'll be at 4:30 p.m. with Dr. Mark Koyama, talking about institutional change in economic development. Also, if you didn't grab a book on your way in, we do have copies of The Boat Not Taken, and Dr. Kalbus would be happy to sign your book at the end of the event if you'd like to stick around. We'll start off with a lecture and discussion of the book by Dr. Joanna Kalbus for about 30 minutes, and then we'll have a discussion between her and her nephew, Dr. Tim Bird. Dr. Bird graduated from Creighton University School of Medicine in 1996, and he's now an orthopedic spine surgeon here in Omaha. Dr. Kalbus was born in North Korea and made two critical migrations, one from North Korea to South Korea after the communist takeover, and then another migration at the age of 10 during the Korean War to the United States. Once in the United States, she earned her PhD in educational administration from the University of California, Riverside. She then worked as a teacher, principal, and superintendent, and then also taught as a lecturer in education at the University of California, Riverside. In addition to an impressive career, she's a writer, a harpist, and an annual participant in the Bays to Breakers foot race. She currently lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, where she can view her favorite bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, that she and her mother sailed under in 1951. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Joanna Choi Kalbus.
Thank you. Oh. First of all, I'm so old, all this tech stuff is creeping me out, so forgive me. Thank you, Dr. O'Reilly, for your introduction, and thanks to the Menard Family Center of Economic Inquiry for hosting me. I also like to thank Asian World Center for co-sponsoring this event. And with love, I'd like to thank Dr. Bird, my nephew, who made it possible for me to be here. I feel like a Cinderella, big jumbotron here, and all of you, I really thank you. It is my honor. I have 30 minutes. I have so much to say, but little time, so I'm going to speak very rapidly. Tim, cover photo there? Yeah, all right. Here's my mother, my. Okay, here we go. Okay, my mother, and the little girl is about 3 or 3.5 years old, and this is in North Korea. We lived in a small hamlet called Unyul. The title, The Boat Not Taken, refers to a life-defining moment of my family's life. What happened was, in 1946, we had to escape, my brother, Tim's father, and my mother and I, along with other refugees, to South Korea. But when we got there, my mother, a woman of gentility, did not know how to make a living. So my second brother, Tim's father, was sent to a relative because he's a boy and he's valuable. But little 5-year-old girl was sent to Catholic orphanage. So I stayed there. All I know is that I got my bangs cut 3 times. And one day my mother came and said that we're going to go back to North Korea. And so we went to the boat dock and bought 2 tickets to go back to North Korea. And this is what happened. And And the reason that I title it is, This is What Happened. When we got there, the woman, the ticket master did not take her ticket. Instead, he said, "Woman, are you out of your mind? Most people in North Korea are desperately trying to flee from there, and here you are trying to go back." He slapped my mother across her face and yelled, "Get out of here. Don't you ever try this again." All I know was I just grabbed onto her skirt and was scared. But half a century later, I realized it was synchronicity. Carl Jung defined synchronicity as a meaningful coincidence of two or more events where something other than the probability of chance is involved. What if the ticket master didn't care about humanity, human value, and just did his job of taking our tickets? I would not be here with you today if my and I had boarded that boat back to North Korea. Next. The Boat Not Taken is my debut book. At my ripe old age of 84, I beat Grandma Moses. She got famous at 76. So this is a new thing for me, being an author. I did not set out with the intention of writing a memoir. Back in 1951, when we arrived in the USA, I, a non-English child, enrolled at St. Agnes School in Los Angeles. There were no such programs as English as a second language. It was just sink or swim. I was making progress reading out loud, "Run, Spot, run." But then I wrote a poem, "A Cat Ate a Rat." C- in red ink didn't portend well for me to be a writer. I became an educator. My mother's death in 1996 led me to write. She was my life's historian, and I felt rudderless without her. And this is why my mother was a young widow, and I'm her last child, Maknae. So one day, I told my mother when I was about 4 years old, "Oh my, I don't want to drink your milk anymore." And she looked at me and she said, "Yeah, the milk must be very bland because you eat kimchi." So that, I might have been having her milk until her milk dries up, but that's how close we were. And we slept together each day until the day before my wedding day. And then when I got married and had children, then of course my mother was the one who came to live with me. And so it's like 55 years of my life, she and I were together. I missed her so much, I communed with her by journaling. There were so many unanswered questions that I didn't get to ask her. So many regrets I harbored in my thoughts. So I embarked on writing her story with just a timeline of significant dates, like when she was born, when my big brother was born, when my second brother was born, and so on. Next one. This is my mother. This memoir chronicles my Omai's life. She is the main character. I just happened to be with her for 55 years, spanning almost an entire 20th century, born 1905 and died in 1996, and across 2 continents. I recounted an intimate, complex family story of displacement, hardships, achievements, life-altering secrets and reunions. Often I would look at her photo and I talked to her. When the communists took over North Korea, my Omai, my brother and I, along with others, escaped South Korea when I was 5 years old in a rickety boat that even had a hole in it. We fled because the communist regime parceled out all our vast land holdings to sharecroppers. 4 years later, on June 25th, North Korean soldiers invaded Korea. So in Korean, you say Yushib Isibo. Oh, just like when we say 9/11, you know what happened. 2 months later, my Omai and I fled to Busan. I have chosen an excerpt to read from the chapter titled "The Train to Busan." It's not the one, the zombie movie. It's just a real one. And I want you to know what it's like in real time. And foremost, you will get to know my Omai's essence in just one scene. Listen for my one scene. The Train to Busan, Seoul, 1950. 2 months into the war, my mother and I lived in temporary shelters. Our roommates were fellow war refugees. Every evening, Omai and I staked out a corner of the large rooms we stayed in. I helped my mother spread out our one bedroll. Then all the women gathered and visited, but their hands were never idle while they talked. Some cleaned, some mended clothes, and some prepared food. The newest problem was lice. My hair teemed with them. Omai would sit me down between her legs and pick out one louse at a time. She squashed each between her thumbnails. Black blood splattered her fingers. Then she scratched the snowy nits off my scalp. One woman had a system of mass louse annihilation. She discovered that they liked to live in the seams of clothes, so she took her family's clothing and ran her teeth along the seams, chomping chatter-like from one end to the other. I imagine crushed lice in cloth catacombs. Combating lice was an evening task. The first morning task was to pry my eyes open. They were so infected from unsanitary conditions that I saw through a gray haze of pus. Overnight, the buildup dried and glued my eyes shut. I had no eyelashes left. Every morning, Omai would use a bowl of water previously boiled and cooled to clean my eyes. One morning, Omai woke me earlier than usual. "We have to hurry," she whispered as she cleaned my eyes. "Peran gaya de." "What is Peran?" I asked. "We have to flee from here. The Reds are gaining ground. It is no longer safe for us in Seoul." Her movements were quick as she collected our belongings. "Get dressed. We leave soon for the train depot." Crowds milled around the railroad station, pandemonium everywhere. I held onto Omai's free hand. With her other hand, she balanced a large bundle of our possessions on her head. She led us toward a monstrous black locomotive, fuming on its track. Men shouted orders to whoever would obey. Old people shuffled about as fast as they could. Some children like me were quiet. Others were boisterous. The babies were tied securely to their mothers' backs. The front railroad cars were already packed with people. We hurried and made our way to a car toward the rear of the train. "Ajumani, come over here," shouted a man younger than Omai. He helped her with her bundle as she climbed aboard. Then he hoisted me up beside her. The boxcar filled up fast. We moved to one side. Each family huddled together as more people were shoved into our already packed car. With the exception of the aged who sat on their family's possessions, most of us stood. The railroad car did not have any chairs or benches. I felt suffocated, standing with my face pressing against people's chests or backs. I felt the heartbeats of those around me. The stench of sweat and urine stung my nose. I panted, breathing through my mouth. The train jerked forward. The lurching conveyed all the cars. The only air and light came from the open door of the boxcar. I peered out between people as the train chugged along. My cloudy vision painted the passing scenery, a fuzzy gray, a blur of gable-roofed houses, farms with thatch-roofed huts and orchards, and oxen plowing fields. With a shrill blast of its whistle, the train entered a tunnel. Eyes wide open, I experienced an empty blackness. The dark magnified the noise of the train and the smell of the surrounding bodies. The train clattered on and on. Finally, it stopped. Outside, vendors on a train platform were selling their wares. Nebes haseyo, buy my pears, a man with a basket of fruit called out. Pe means both pears and stomach. I knew we didn't have any money to buy a pear. He might as well have been selling his stomach. His southern dialect sounded strange. Where are we? I asked my mother. Why do these people speak so funny? We're in Tagu, halfway to Busan, our destination. We got off the train. I pulled on my skirt. Oh my, ojum noya de, I said as I squeezed my legs together to forestall the need to urinate. Omai looked around. With lifted skirt, an old woman squatted on the dirt bank beyond the platform, urinating. My mother took my hand and led me over to her. I can't go here, I cried as drops slid down my legs. Omai took off her outer skirt and shielded me from others. But they'll know what I'm doing. Go, Omai said. I did not even have a chance to squat. A river of ojum snaked a path on the ground. My legs splattered with urine. When we headed back, Omai saw water trickling out from underneath the train. She crouched down and cupped her hands under the escaping water. Suddenly, a blast of white steam spurted from the spout and scalded her outstretched hands and arms. She reeled back. "Oh my!" I shouted. That steam signaled that the train was about to leave again. We scrambled aboard. Others examined my mother's burns and clucked their tongues in sympathy. They made room for us to sit on our bundle. Her scalded skin peeled off like old flimsy paper, and the raw flesh oozed. No one had any salve to protect and soothe her injury. I shivered as if my own hands and arms were sliced by 1,000 paper cuts. We sat side by side on the reverberating bundle. "You have so much pus in your eyes. Can you see anything?" "Everything is blurry, oh my, but my eyes don't hurt." I blinked hard, trying to get rid of the sticky substance. Each time I did, it stretched across my eyes like rubber bands. "Unia, look up." I tilted my head back and opened my eyes as wide as I could. I felt her breath on my face. She thrust her tongue into my right eye and licked it clean. Without a word, she did the same to my left one. The warmth and softness of her tongue caressed me, even when her burnt hands could not. The locomotive, dragging dilapidated boxcars full of refugees, arrived in Busan on a gloomy morning. It belched out its dirty, exhausted passengers. "Now what, oh my?" I asked. Next. It's a transition that I'm sorry. I get too emotional. Okay, now we have here, all right, so okay, we're now on the north the map section. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go over 30 minutes if I don't get this fast enough. Okay. Okay, so 4, 5. Which one is this one here? Okay, covers 30. Sorry for that. I got carried away here. Which one is that? There. All right, so this one is the map of it. Huh? Okay, babe. Where did I leave off? Okay, 10, 8, 9, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is not missed. That is the one I can't find. Pardon me, just. Okay, so you see the map. Okay, the North Korea and South Korea. The Koreans think the map of Korea looked like a profile of mountain rabbit with its hind legs squatting and the front paws frozen in a begging position. As an image surfaced, a thick line incising the mountain rabbit's midsection, severing the body so that the forelegs could never be in a relaxed natural position. That line is the 38th parallel, DMZ, demilitarized zone, and to this day, Korea is still at war. Okay, we've got to move on now. Okay. So we did. So the timeline: escape from North Korea. When the communists took over, as I told you, we had to escape from North Korea to South Korea because the communist regime parceled out all our vast land holdings to the sharecroppers. And then 4 years later, on June 25th, the North Korean soldiers invaded Seoul. 2 months later, we did that one. So now we're going to, we did that. So you need to move on to the next one here. Okay. Now you see me at age 10 in New Year's hanbok. Every New Year, my mother would make new hanbok for me. But this one is, I wore this to go to, it's at Kimpo Airport in Seoul, and we are now going to Miguk, beautiful land. So first time, it was my first time that my mother and I ever flew on an airplane. And so we went from Seoul to Tokyo and then took a taxi to Yokohama to board the ship to USA. And my mother spoke fluent Japanese because she was born in 1905 and Japan occupied Korea from 1910 on. So she was fluent, so we navigated to the shipyard and then we're coming to Miguk. And before that, I do want to mention that that how important language and names are. Under Japanese rule, instructions are taught in Japanese only, and under Japanese rule, all Koreans have to give up our names and have Japanese names. So losing language and your name strips you of your identity. So I wanted to emphasize one of the themes that I want to share with you. I'd like to address, again, very briefly about immigrant life. My memoir is about a mother and daughter from a small hamlet called Unyu to going to a sprawling Los Angeles, California in mid-20th century when President Truman was the president and then President Eisenhower. The Boat Not Taken gently addresses the twin topics of cultural assimilation and cultural acculturation. I say gently because the reader has to read between the lines. My book is not a thesis. My experience as a Korean immigrant in the 1950s was quite different from today. Very, very different. When BTS, K-drama, and all that, Koreans are at the zenith of evolution, I think. But back in 1951, it's a totally different era. My Oma and I were foreigners. We were guests in this country. We thought the streets were paved with gold and how fortunate we are to be in America. When you are an immigrant, you straddle two cultures. Maintaining my cultural identity is important to me. Korea is rooted in Confucianism, philosophical and ethical teachings. Family is not just a nuclear family. Kinship is valued. Every family has a detailed family lineage with the government, filed with the government office. For example, Dr. Bird's, I am Dr. Bird's aunt. In Korean, there are two words for the one word aunt or aunt. Gomo is from his paternal side, and Imo is from his maternal side. And I am his gomo. Why is this important? Specific designation signifies who I am in reference to my nephew. Lineage is valued. We are all related. I also value respect for elders. Not that the Americans don't respect elders, but there are subtleties for how respect is rendered in Korean culture. And of course, it goes for other cultures too. So straddling the two cultures, and when you read the book, I want you to think about how assimilation comes in and how acculturation comes in. Next one. Okay, we're almost there. October 16, 1951, SS President Wilson docked on a pier at the Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. The black and white photo of SS President Wilson on the bridge doesn't do justice to the day that my mother and I sailed under the Golden Gate Bridge. It was in Technicolor then, standing on the deck, holding my mother's hand and wondering if that tall mast would clear the bridge. It was a glorious day on that day, and it did clear. And the photo on the right. Could you go back to the photo? What happened here? You're going to have to go back to now you're previewing all my photos. Okay, right here. That's good. Photo on the right is an important one. This was taken on the photo on the right is taken on October 16, the same day that we arrived at the Fisherman's Wharf. And the lady on the left is Mrs. Alston. I think Mr. Alston was taking the picture. I don't know the gentleman's name next to Mrs. Alston, but he is the liaison to how from the Catholic Charities to and had us have Mr. and Mrs. Alston sponsor us to come to United States. And my mother is right behind me, and she was only 46 years old, but when I see that picture, she looks like she was 64, so tired and weary she is. And the lady next is one of our shipmates on the journey. And me, I gave up my Korean hanbok and got a gift from Mrs. Alston, her granddaughter's Western outfit there. So, without the Catholic Charities and Mr. and Mrs. Alston's sponsorship, we wouldn't be here. And I really appreciate and thank both Catholic Charities and Mr. and Mrs. Alston for their generosity. Okay, so next one. We're almost there. You probably think, where does Archie comic book come in? I loved Archie comic books. We didn't have money for me to buy a comic book, but I read all of them. I was a latchkey child when that term was not even invented. In that, and so, in that era, most of the American women who were married were homemakers, but my mother had to work, so I put on that house key, the thick twine of my mother's laundry line. I would put my key in there and wear like a necklace, and then when I go to school, and then about an hour before she would come back I always go to the bus station, and we come home together. But so I read all the Archie comic books while waiting for her. And the reason you're seeing this picture is because I want to address another central theme regarding immigrant life: the idea of belonging. Abraham Maslow stated the idea of belonging is a fundamental human need, feeling of being accepted and valued for who you are and desire to connect with others. In high school, I never had a date. That was because I was the only Oriental girl. All I wanted to be was an American girl. Archie comic books gave me hope. There were 4 characters: Jughead, the one slurping sodas, Betty the blonde, freckle-faced Archie, and sexy Veronica. I identified with Betty, of course, knowing I would never be glamorous like Veronica. I even asked my Omai to make me a dress that cartoon Betty wore. I thought if I could be like Betty, I would become an American girl. So that's why I included this one, to be American girl. Jury's still out, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Next one, okay. I chose this photo to illustrate our first American dream come true. 1959, I was a senior in high school. That's me wearing a tiara that I bought from Woolworths. The picture was taken after my solo recital, where the entire student body attended. Sitting in the front row were 4 nuns from Mount St. Mary's College in Brentwood, California. It was my audition. I was admitted to St. Mary's College with full scholarship. My Omai and I believed in American dream. My Omai worked at Genuine, spelled Jan hyphen capital U hyphen WYNE, Genuine Wine, which is a factory that cans Spanish rice and other Asian food. I don't know how Spanish rice got in there, but my mother would say spinashi rice. And so, yes, it's like I Love Lucy, you know, that chocolate episode where they would, Lucy and Ethel would shove the chocolate in their mouth and put it on their bras because the conveyor belt is going so fast. Well, my mother told me lots of her sweat got into those Spanish rice. So I never bought any Spanish rice from there. And then just to tell you how hard it is to achieve American dreams. And then she also worked as a janitor at a piano store, and I think that, she was able to buy me a most interesting looking piano. It was plywood, and it was a vinyl covered with all this cowboy with a lasso there. It's one of a kind, but she would have a layaway plan with the manager. She didn't speak English, but she had what we call nunchi, extraordinary perception. She could anticipate what needs to be done without anybody telling her what to do. So, and then we needed more money, so she took in pisuwoku. You know what that is? She's speaking English. It's pisuwoku, piece work. So she would make jewelry boxes at nighttime. That's pisuwoku. She even knew how to cuss from learning from Pablo, the manager. So I want you to figure out what she says. This is English. Saramada betchu. You got that? No, you didn't get that, huh? Yeah. Saramada in Japanese word, I had to figure it out because she said, what's saramada betchu? So saramada is underwear, the way I understand it, it's Japanese. And then pachu means Chinese cabbage. So I said, saramada betchu. I said, Chinese, it didn't make any sense. But if you keep on saying it, saramada betchu, son of a bitch. Yeah, so somewhere, so she did all these things so that I can get the education. Like the Menard family, one of the pillars says, education is important. That's what she told me. So, you know, that was our first American dream. You know, there's no Korean dream. There's no Italian dream. There's no any dream, but it's American dream. So have hope, even though you might not be so hopeful right now. Okay, that's that one. Okay, this is the last one. 2023, I went to Busan, and I'm going to title this photo, Plush Train to Busan. I had a velvety cushion. I had those gentlemen all dressed up in their uniform come and serve me. But Busan was not the Busan that we lived in the churchyard. There was, I think the church was rebuilt because there was nothing. It's a high rise. It's just like any cosmopolitan thing, but you can't go back. Some big authors said that one. And then the last one is, okay, I gotta go fast, is that when my mother passed away, I wanted to celebrate our coming to America and also celebration of life. It's not because I'm athletic on the other, but it was for spiritual sustenance and to honor our voyage to America. So I've been doing bait to breakers. That's a foot race in San Francisco. We start from downtown near the wharf, and then we end up in the Pacific Ocean, and it's 12K. And the first time, and every time, this year would be 29th time, when I round the bend and I see the blue Pacific Ocean, I just say, I shout and say, thank you, oh my. So this is a love story to my mother. Thank you very much. Do you have your mic? Oh, you got that? Okay, all right.
So you can definitely tell she's her mother's daughter. Yeah, so from that. So I have lots of questions for her. I've only been with my Gomo 3 times, so this is the 3rd time. So it's, almost 58 years on the planet for me and 84 for her. So, family is a very important thing, and we've been able to rekindle this, which is very special. I want to open the floor up to, or the questions up to the floor. I know there's a mic, or I think this one here we can take around. I've asked her lots of questions, but I can always have more for her. So if you guys have any questions, just raise a hand and we can bring the mic out to you.
I actually have like 100 questions, but I'm only going to ask 2. Okay? And the first one is, did your mother ever explain to you what her thought process was when she took you to the ship to go back?
She did not tell me, but I know why. Yes, when we came to Seoul, there's my mother and 13-year-old brother and me, and what could she do? There's nothing that she can do in terms of having any. At that time, women really don't have jobs and so on. So she had no choice but to put me in an orphanage. Yeah, and so of course I didn't know why she was putting me in orphanage. All I know is that she said she's going to come back for me. Yeah, and so think about it. If I were her, I would do the same thing, because family is important. She's probably lodging with some other refugees, and her son is away, and little daughter is in orphanage. So she decided it's better to go back and be with the family rather than be separated and not see the daughter. So I could understand that.
The other question I had, and I don't know that you have the answer to this, but I would just be fascinated by this. In terms of the time that you and your mother were here in the United States, was there some moment between the two of you when you jointly come to the realization that you're home? I understand that you're still of Korean ancestry, but you're home now. Was there some conversation that the two of you had at some point in your life where that popped out?
I wouldn't say that we sit down and say, well, this is the time now that we're all assimilated and all that. But over the time, it became, we became comfortable. And there's such a thing as a Spanglish, where the Spanish and English, well, we got Korean-ish, so she knows words, and so my Korean is stunted at age 10, and when I went back in 2023, they said, now it's 할머니. 할머니 said, "You're not from here," because I said, "Where's the bathroom?" And the word bathroom that I know, and I thought it was Korean word, was benjo, but that was a Japanese word. You see, and then I realized when I went back to Korea that I really didn't belong. Yeah, it's a transformation. It's a very slowly, but yet that's why I say that I straddle two countries. And the other thing is that I'm not sure if I could ever be an American girl. Think about it. We had that melting pot theory that didn't work out. Then we had salad bowl theory that didn't work out. And I'll give you an anecdote. I went on a tour to Scotland, and those tours you sit around with the other tourists, and then on our table there was an Australian nurse, and next to her was a Japanese woman. And so the Australian nurse said that she's from Australia and she's a nurse. So I asked the Japanese lady what her profession is, and she says, "I deliver babies." So I laughed because here's Japanese woman saying babies. You know what that is? Babies, because she's in Australia now. Yeah. So I laughed, and the Australian woman said, "Well, don't think that you are an American." And it was shocking, actually. And she said, "With your face, you'll never be an American." So, yeah, how many times have I been asked where you come from? And so on. So, it has to be a different paradigm, I think. To be everybody being, no one has to ask where you come from. So, and I don't have that. I have no idea. Unless you young people figure it out.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I really enjoyed. This is Mauro.
Where are
I'm
you?
here.
There you are. Okay.
Thank you. It's so wonderful and interesting, but also inspirational. But my question is that from your talk, from your book, that there are two journeys that's so instrumental for your life, which one is in America. But I'm curious why your mother and you decide to go back to North Korea. Luckily, somebody say, "Don't go back."
Yes.
Why? Why you want to go back to North Korea after taking so much effort coming to this country, coming to Migo, and then you decide to go back?
No, this is before coming to Miguk. This is after we escaped, and then she wanted to go back to North Korea.
But North Korea was not an ideal place
I
in the
know,
first place.
but we had family.
I see.
Yeah, la
Okay.
family es todo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's great to know that American life, in some ways, is better, even more valuable than a family which is in a wicked area that resonate with a lot of things that I went through myself. By the way, you went to Busan. Did you ever go back to North Korea?
I'll be dead if I get there.
Okay. You know, there are two people in this audience, Mr. Rich Jono sitting right there, and myself. How many times you went to North Korea, Rich? I think he went there once. I went there twice.
How? Because you're Chinese, huh?
Because I had a Chinese passport.
I
But-
would have American passport and I'll be dead.
Yeah, but now I have American passport. That was many years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I did know something about inside North Korea. And actually, my Asian study class today starts on the North Korean section. What a wonderful! Some of my students are here today. You are.
Oh,
Yeah. Hi, I'm Donovan. I'm in Maurong's Asian Studies class. And this is my third class with Maurong. Yeah, I think third.
now if you're studying Korean, you're going to have to say Dr. Jung.
I asked my student to call me my first.
Oh, you are so American.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you had a question.
Uh,
I interrupted you.
no, you're fine. I think,
He wants to prove that we studied North Korean section.
yeah.
Oh, you studied. Oh, what did you learn?
I guess we were just kind of doing just a general introduction to North Korea and just the whole peninsula, because we also just kind of started talking about South Korea as well. So and I guess
That's
Wait,
great.
yeah.
I was afraid that that young students would be bored by history, and it really is impactful because that our lives' trajectory was because of all the wars and wars. So yeah, so that's good that you're doing that.
I want to thank you for your book, Dr. Choi. I read it this week. I was very moved by it. Your comments about never being an American woman were very powerful that you just said today. I came in 1960, so a different decade. And I don't know about your children, how they feel. And I think your husband was Caucasian, so they were probably mixed. But I think today's children, Koreans, have a different feeling, and there is much more acceptance for them, not just because of K-pop, and that is just because it's been so long. But my experience would have been similar to yours, except I was in an orphanage and I was never picked up. So, but I ended up in the United States with a nice family, a white family, obviously. But so you can be American. It's just nobody thinks you're American.
That is
I
right.
think you very much feel American. I feel American, but I've been asked all my life, what are you, constantly, to the point that you just get used to answering it. But it was very moving. The thing you read about your mom being a human eye drop was my favorite part of the book. That, I think, summed up the book. I mean, that if anybody reads the book, that's all you need to read. The question I had was actually for your nephew now, since you have a nephew in Omaha, and you only reference your younger brother a couple of times, and it's not real clear, and I'm sorry, I believe he passed away. So I wondered what that relationship was like when your brother was in LA, right? And you were in LA, and you really don't talk much about that. You go into interesting detail about your older brother, but I wanted to think his name was Eric, or...
Oh, that's my son.
Oh, that's your son. Okay, your older, the second brother,
My
his
second
father.
brother he chose his baptismal name. You know what it is? Aloysius. Who has a name from Saint Aloysius of Gonzaga? Yeah. My brother's name is Aloysius.
So, I wondered what your relationship was with him, since he was already in the United States, and obviously had a family.
Yeah, I could have done that, but you have to structure your book, and I couldn't fit him in because this is, as I said, my mother's story. So if I would fit it, I don't think it would have been as cogent and of a storytelling perspective. Then, oh, by the way, my second brother, went to USF and so on. He did. I had a purpose in writing this book, and it was to honor my mother's journey, and what a wonderful mother she was and is in my heart. Yeah, so I'll tell you later on about my brother.
I just wondered, and that makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
I think it's a memoir, and I realize all the time it's not a memoir about you. It's about your mom, and
Yeah,
it's hard to get that straight sometimes when you read the book, since it's in your voice. But then you realize this is about your mom.
Yeah,
And at the ending,
yeah.
you really realize it's about your
Yeah.
mom. But it's a very powerful book about moms.
Yeah, and then those of you who have read, someone asked me, you stopped in part 2 at 18 years old when I was
Yeah.
going to go to UCLA. And then I pick up on part 3 when I'm age 55 when my mother died. So the big gap. Well, again,
That's the gap I was talking about.
yeah, that's what you're talking about. But that would be another story. That would be my story. So it's a good thing I didn't put it in because people like short stories.
I look forward to that book then.
Hi. I just want to thank you first for coming here. I really liked hearing about your book, and I'm looking forward to grabbing a coffee on the way out. But I guess I had 2 questions for you. The first one being, like, how do you think having those 2 different backgrounds kind of has allowed you to grow, like, professionally and personally? And the second one being, like, when you decided to write a memoir about your mom, how do you think you, like, gathered your information, or, like, what propelled you to do it, and how did you gather your insights for that?
Okay. As I mentioned, I did not think that I was capable of writing. I couldn't do academic work, those titles with the colon in it and explaining your title and all that. But writing, creative writing is quite different. And so the way it flowed was, I missed her so much, and I journaled, and I had vignettes, for example, in 2008, when President Obama adopted a dog, and I said, well, I had pets too, and so I wrote about the one where the foreign student, meaning the student came from Korea. When you go to a Korean house, you got to give them gifts. Well, he had no money, but he was a researcher at UCLA in what was that thing? The leprosy. So he gave me 3 chicks and 1 rat for a gift. And so I wrote that vignette about having my pets. So I had all these vignettes of different things. Then people said, vignettes, you got to write a regular story where you got start, beginning, and all that stuff. So in the craft of writing, I have to really attend schools and so on. But in terms of why writing is not that easy when you're writing about your family. I feel very vulnerable even talking to you, especially a person like you who already know that I'm naked because I told you everything. So that one it was a learning experience. It's a writing journey, and the more I wrote, and more I understood my mother, and more things come out, and there's a secret there that I'm not going to spoil it because otherwise you're not going to read the book. So and when that happened, I almost felt like I lost my mother. I felt betrayed and so on. And I stopped writing because I had to process that emotionally, psychologically. Here's my mother, and all of a sudden she's a stranger to me. So it's agony and ecstasy. But most of all, what I learned from that is I'm a better person, because I think in the lexicon of words, the most valuable word is the word empathy. I do not judge people anymore. You have to walk in their shoes and see. And what is truth? I'm not sure what truth is, but it has to do with points of view. And someone else's points of view is their truth, so I cannot diminish their points of view. So I learned a lot of it and from that. It's a courteous way of trying to answer your question. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, thank you.
Let me ask you one more quick question.
Yeah.
And this relates back to something else. It's a hard question. I was in Red Square after the Soviet Union fell apart. Okay? So I'm there, and I'm looking around. There were a lot of people who were talking about how Russia was going to westernize. Okay? And I'm there, and I'm thinking, no, I don't know where they're going, but I know they're not going to westernize. Okay, so I have my own. So it's not that I just have this thought for where I think they're going to be, but I'm going to ask you a similar question for your thoughts on where Korea might be. You know, what you would think would be hopeful and possible for Korea 50 years from now. What do you think? For you, where do you think they might wind up? Is there any hope for
Unification, you mean?
Is there any hope for a lessening of the throttle, by Kim? For your judgment, just having gone through what you went, and as you think about it over the years, where do you think they might wind up 50 years?
Before, I thought I was hopeful that we would unify, but more and more, I'm not sure if human beings are capable of not waging wars. And I'm trying so hard not to put current world events. I want to keep it to 1950s and so on. So I don't have any hope of the unification of Korea, although all my relatives are in North Korea. I have nobody except for my nephew and my 2 children and another niece. So it doesn't seem like I hope I'm wrong and a miracle happens, because we're same blood, we're homogeneous, and also, kinship is so important. We got the same language. We should be unified, but I don't think so. It's not like Germany with the Berlin Wall coming down.
Can you envision anything short of unification where there's a little warmer relationship? They might be able to get along, or do you think that's even just a bridge waiting for them?
I wish I was a political major, but what I think is one of them is going to be the bully and occupy the other one. That would be one way of being unified. But I hope it's maybe the South Korea be able to unify, and probably North Korea people might like that too, but we don't know.
Well, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you all for coming. Please join me in thanking Dr. Kalbus and Dr. Bird.
Thank
we
you
do have.
very, very much. I really appreciate it. It is one of my highlights of my is to see you all, and you know, I just love you all for coming. All right.
We have copies of the book at the top of the auditorium there, and Dr. Kalbus has said that she would sign some books if you're interested, and if you still got some questions, feel free to come on down. Also, there's right now from 5 to 6 p.m. In the Scut Ballroom up campus, there is the Afro Forum, and so if you're interested in that event, it's ongoing right now. Thank you very much.